Okay, I know we've talked about this before, but I wanted to give you some different source information for communicating effectively with people in crisis. So the source for this is a book, Elements in Crisis Intervention by Greenstone and Levitan. So the first thing we need to do when we're working with someone in crisis is find out what the problem really is. A lot of times crisis situations can be a bit chaotic, so it's hard to know what to ask first. But here are good questions that you can start with. What exactly is going on right now? What has the person upset? And why is the situation a crisis at this moment? Very often crises start as something very, very small, and then something triggers the person to get very, very upset, which increases it to the level of a crisis in their perception. What problem is the most pressing? Remember, that's not to you, that's to the client. You may have an idea of what's more important, but remember, the client is the one that you really need to determine that information from. What has to happen first? And what problem can be resolved quickly? And that way we can work on things that can happen fast and gives us more time then to work on other things over time, whether it be a couple days or a couple weeks. And then ask the person, what can I do to help you right now? That doesn't mean that you're only going to help them right now, but you want to make sure that you understand how best to help. So again, the first thing you need to do, you need to determine what is the situation, and you need to figure that out very, very quickly. Remember to listen to the entire message from the person, giving them your undivided attention. And also remember to tune into the person's body language and other nonverbal signals. Sometimes the nonverbals will tell you more than their words will, especially if someone is so upset that they're having trouble communicating. So you're going to get 3 different messages without really thinking about it. It's hard to remember these things, so it's important that we remember what we're getting out of the client. So the first thing is, again, what's the client's perception of the problem? Try to get a feel for where their emotions are, and then also the meaning to the situation, so that gives you an idea of what has the person so upset right now. And you need to have skills in empathy. This book talks about 2 different elements in empathy, and I like the way they were phrased. The first one is passive empathy. So again, tuning into the nonverbals, watching body language, and really hearing the facts that the person's trying to communicate to you without words. And then your active empathy is really reflecting back to this person that you understand, that they're in a safe place, and that you're very willing to be open with them and try to help them as much as you can. The hardest thing to avoid sometimes is telling someone you know exactly how you feel. That is not a really good expression of empathy. We really don't know how someone feels, even if we've been through a different situation that we think might be helpful to them to know. So don't assume that you know how someone feels. You really can't know until they've had a chance to tell you. And remember, if they're upset, it may take some time to really understand what they're feeling. And you don't want the person to look at you and say, okay, how do I feel? Go ahead, tell me, since you think you know. You really want to avoid that if you can. And then different things when you're not sure what to say or when you're stuck. With all the training, we think that we're going to be ready for any kind of crisis, but anybody can get stuck in the moment. Whether it's confusion, you just forget what you wanted to ask, things can happen. So you may want to keep a list of these kinds of sayings. So things like, I feel your pain. I'm so sorry for you. I feel your fear. Asking them more open-ended questions. Tell me more about the situation. And what are you feeling right now? Give them a chance to really explain it if they're able. Have you felt this way before? How did you handle it then? So when the person tried that, was it helpful before or was it a waste of time? And again, what can I do to help you right now? And then really talking about some options. The best thing to do might be to see if they can come up with options and then determine what might work best for them. Sometimes people can do this in the crisis situation, sometimes they can't. So this can be very difficult, but we really want to work on getting the answers to the person's questions and finding out what's most important to them.